Hello, and welcome to Episode 1 of the Kerb-X Interplanetary Space Program, brought to you by Rockomax. My name is John, and I'm the head engineer here at Kerb-X, and I'm here to showcase our first truly successful program, the Mun Jet program. After initial landings at the Mun and Minmus, this program was designed to create a reliable vessel that can transfer from Kerbal to the Mun and Minmus and back to fulfill a large number of contracts and to attain the scientific experiments necessary to produce more advanced craft to go farther into the solar system. As the Mun Jet drops its solid rocket boosters, you may notice a second set of wings on the other side of the rocket. With the Ferram Aerospace research mod installed, I wasn't exactly sure how to launch this rocket without them, so if it works, don't mess with it. In addition to the second set of wings, this rocket was also designed prior to the acquisition of fuel lines, meaning that it has to do some frequent fuel transfers in flight to actually make it to the Mun and land properly, or else it will lose its balance or not be able to return home to Kerbal. Arriving at its destination, in this case the Mun Jet relieves itself of its rocket launch vehicle. As the Mun Jet operates on both the Mun and Minmus, the thrust limitations on the engines are kept manual instead of toggled to action groups so they can be adjusted as to the needs of the current mission. In this case, since we want to use fuel as efficiently as possible as we slow down in our approach, we're only going to engage the rearmost LV-909s and save our additional engines for the landing. As the ship approaches the Mun's surface, it fires the more powerful yet less efficient centrally mounted engines. These engines slow the ship's trajectory, ensuring that it lands on a flat surface as opposed to the edge of a crater. With the ship's speed slowed significantly, it is now safe to engage vertical takeoff and landing mode to facilitate an actual touchdown on the Mun. With vertical landing mode engaged, all we can do now is wait. It's a beautiful view, but a really long way to the ground. As we end our descent on the Mun's surface, you may notice the lack of a maneuvering icon in the lower nav ball. This is because there's no probe or cockpit attached to the top of the craft to assist with the vertical landing. Despite this, significant testing and previous landings have gotten us to the point where it's not too difficult to touch down safely. Well, safe landing is one way to describe it. Pretty, maybe not. You can't always get an easy drop on the Mun. The large amount of gravity and the constant shifting from the use of fuel or the different payloads that the mission may require mean that occasionally we get a landing like this where things aren't quite smooth and flat. As you can see, the plane has finally touched down, and the emergency lights indicate that it's going to be transitioning for operations on the Mun. As the VTOL mode is disengaged, the cargo bay doors are open, revealing the science experiments and scanning equipment within. Like all of the Mun Jet program's missions, this wasn't done purely for the science experiments that are performable in this Mun biome. We've been contracted to plant a flag on the surface. Missions like this help recover the loss incurred by the actual launch itself, as well as generate a sizable amount of profit, which we can apply to future missions that may require more advanced and expensive spacecraft. With their mission complete, the crew returned to the ship and closed the cargo bay doors to prepare for departure. Vertical takeoff and landing mode is re-engaged, and at this point the ship orients itself for its exit burn. Once it's set, the ship's main engines once again activate, converting from VTOL mode to standard flight mode in the air, propelling the craft back towards Kerbal. Having outlived their usefulness and fuel, the central engines flare out, leaving the LD-909s as the sole source of propulsion as we return to Kerbal. As mentioned previously, the Mun Jet program works both on the Mun and on Minmus. In fact, on Minmus, the landing is so much easier that the fuel tank ends up half full when we return to Kerbal half the time. As you can see, the process is much the same. The vertical takeoff and landing mode, however, works much more efficiently on Minmus, giving us smoother, easier landings with a much larger margin of error. Taking off from Minmus, much like landing on it, is much easier than the same process on the Mun. Home sweet home. Our crew only has a short time to admire the view before they begin the fiery ascent into Kerbal's atmosphere. Despite our craft's heat shielding, we lose a component on re-entry. Since the ship seems to be handling fine and nothing seems amiss, we continue flying, hoping it wasn't something important. As we drop lower into Kerbal's atmosphere, the ship's wings and air brakes begin to slow it down substantially. Though the craft is constructed like a spaceplane, it actually lands with parachutes. This is because landing like a spaceplane requires an even payload and consistent center of mass, which with the fluctuating nature of these missions and their destinations is difficult to obtain. For pure safety's sake, to prevent the loss of Kerbal life, and for ease of landing, we're simply going to go with parachutes. We pull the chutes a little late, so they instantly inflate, sending the craft into a bit of a spin. Fortunately, using SAS and RCS control, we can right it before landing. As the ship drifts slowly to the ground, the crew celebrate yet another successful mission. This landing is in fact the last of the Mun Jet program. Its success has generated both the funds and scientific knowledge necessary to permit a mission to Duno, which is both our next major goal and the main feature of the second episode of the Kerb-X Interplanetary Space Program, coming soon. My name is John, thank you for watching.